Yeah.
Good afternoon, and welcome again to another edition of Stay at Home and Brew It. I'm Jeff Perot.
And I'm Cedrick Freeman.
And today what we're going to do is we're going to take you a little more deeper into making seltzers. Now, Cedrick is our resident seltzer expert, and if you want kind of an intro on seltzers, we actually did a video, I guess it was about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good feedback from that video, especially Aaron Rogers and Brad Mercer, who reached out to me via email and had a couple of questions. So we really wanted to, just wanted to answer their questions real quick from the start, just to get those out of the way. One thing is your water pH will not matter at this juncture while you're making seltzer. And then the second question is, you're free to do whatever you have. We just have a couple of things out here that I personally have tried, but you're welcome to do anything you want. I mean, the style points here are endless. And Jeff actually brought me up some of his key lime.
Yeah, I actually, after the little seltzer episode there, I actually made some seltzer, and I'm going to carefully open it here and put it in the growler this morning. It may have been, oops, it was pretty foamy when I put it in.
Oh, nice.
So I made a key lime seltzer, and I'm going to give you some Cedrick. Cedrick's going to give me some feedback because this is my first.
Hey, look at that clarity.
And is it still fermenting?
Just a tad bit.
Okay. I told him it still smells a little bit like Toots. And so that meant it was still fermenting.
That will definitely happen when you're fermenting seltzer. You're feeding your yeast a lot of junk food, corn sugar, a little bit of maltodextrin. So a lot of the times you're not going to get a pleasant off flavor, especially when you're fermenting in your first vessel. I do recommend a secondary on this.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I do recommend a secondary just because that gives it a little bit of time to clarify and stuff like that. One thing about your seltzer that I can taste right away is that it dried out.
Okay.
And which is totally normal, especially for the type of yeast we're using in these seltzers, that it will dry out completely. One thing I do recommend that we don't have on the table is lactose. A lot of times lactose could really save you on that back end, give you a little bit of sweetness, but that does actually depend on your taste.
Okay.
Some people do like a drier seltzer where you're not getting all that residual sugar stuck in your mouth.
Okay. Would I have added the lactose right before fermentation or during my boil, or?
So I've actually added it in 2 places. Look at Brendan. Hi, Brendan. No, we're on podcast. So I recommend adding it at the end of your boil with about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
A lot of people say boil it for 60 minutes or 30 minutes. For that to take place, it really requires a lot of planning ahead, and the times that I have actually done it, I wanted to just make sure that the residual sweetness was there. It didn't need to be kind of caramelized or beer poked. I just wanted to be kind of just that normal sweetness left over.
Okay. So I could have perhaps added a little lactose and gotten a little bit of a little bit of sweetness to it in the background.
Indeed.
Okay. Anything else you taste on mine that I should have done differently, or?
Remind Austin to buy salt today? Yes. Okay, good.
Really, it's a great product.
Okay.
I love the clarity on it. I love the little bit of hops on the back end.
Okay.
The thing about seltzer is that the game is far wide open. Now, I do love this, and we do have my original key lime to compare to this.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of one of the things that we
Okay.
have in this episode today that's a little bit different from others. I hope y'all are still keeping up with us. I know the live stream is kind of iffy right now. Everybody's at home and streaming. But one of the things we want to talk about in seltzer is going... We're good? Yeah, going from the beginning and using different sugars.
Okay.
I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, why can't I use beet sugar? Belgian candy syrup, which is beet sugar just inverted.
Okay.
You know, the rock candy, and using those different types of sugar including the molasses, a lot of those different ones. And what I would say to that is that people, when they hear the word seltzer, they're thinking of clear liquid. So a lot of times when you're adding dark brown sugar, molasses, anything like that, you're going to get a darker tint and color. So what I would do is actually play towards that and do a flavor that actually works well with brown.
Okay.
Can you think of one? A flavor that works well with brown. I would say, I think we have vanilla butternut.
Yeah, vanilla butternuts would be good. Actually, another one would be, like an Oreo kind of cookies and cream kind of thing
Yes,
going on.
we do have Oreo as well, and cookies and cream.
Let's see. There's some darker things like the one you do that is your old-fashioned
Yes.
seltzer.
Yes.
Kind of have that little bit of a browner color would work well.
And that was something that I really tried to get out, was that kind of brown hue of the barrel. From that, kind of like it was stave aged. So that's really what I was trying to get at that. So, yeah. Hi, Cheryl out there. I see you watching. Thank you very much. And then when we're going over our seltzer to go from our primary to our secondary, which I do, not everybody does that, and that's okay. You could just let it sit, because like we were talking about, was it Tuesday? Mm-hmm. We were talking about the different ways that you can have your beer settle out and clarify your beer. And one of those things is time. So if you chose to set it in one vessel, just set it and forget it. And like Jeff was pointing out earlier, it will have I wouldn't want to say bad off flavor, but
It smells like toots.
It is kind of sulfury.
A little sulfury.
And that's because, like I said earlier, you're feeding it junk food, but don't worry about it. We're still moving along. And it, just like Jeff created, it does create a dang good drink.
Well, thanks. Now, last time we talked about kind of some of the basics of doing seltzer, and talked about how it kind of gets put together. Now, one of the things which I was wondering, which you and I spoke a little bit about, is how important is the idea of building your water profile or playing with certain minerals, something important. And you brought up actually the idea of a mineral water that you and some of the guys here in the shop like.
Yeah, and the whole thing behind this is because one of the favorite brands out there of a lot of people to drink is Topo Chico. And for me, I wanted to mimic that, because for a lot of people, that is their seltzer that they're drinking most of the time. It's a non-alcoholic mineral water that comes from a nice little town out in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Brock, do you know where Topo Chico comes from?
Topo Chico?
Topo Chico? No clue, but he drinks it all the time. And there's a couple of different brands out there, like Bubbly that is offered by a Coca-Cola company. You have the sparkling waters from DeSanti that have all kinds of random flavors in it. Strawberry, watermelon, everything. And these drinks were kind of the basis of what I went to Jeff with, because he is our water profile master.
I don't know about that, but
You do a lot with water profile.
I do quite a bit with water profile. All the stuff I brew, I usually build the water from scratch.
I do not. And there's just one of the many differences that we do. But this is one thing that we can both agree on, is that if we could find a standard water profile for seltzer, then you could create a consistent product which has all the things that people love when they're drinking those sparkling mineral waters or stuff like that. And still, you can choose the avenue to make it alcoholic or non-alcoholic at the same time.
Yeah. So that would be something also that those of y'all could make if you wanted to. I mean, it doesn't have to be a hard seltzer. You can make a non-alcoholic soft seltzer.
Yeah.
And the seltzer could be something that you could have at a party for people who maybe are going to be designated drivers, or for your kids.
Yeah.
Or even for we all have friends who can't drink for one reason or another, and that can be a nice way of providing them with a way to enjoy the party as well.
Yeah, and this is one of the great things about this is that I can do it with my nephews. I can do it with my significant other as well. Mm-hmm. Just getting more people involved into the process of making something makes it so they have a little bit of ownership in it as well. And just having that little bit of ownership in it makes it feel like they have accomplished something big.
Yeah.
And definitely, like I said, with seltzer, it's definitely a big accomplishment when you finally get your first drink of it and you're like, oh, well, that's not as bad as I thought, or it smelled way worse when it was fermenting than it tastes right now.
Well, and going along those same lines, I mean, as you talked about making it with someone, actually the ski lime one that I actually made with Jean, and one of the things she remarked was, one of it was a fairly easy process. It was something which, she wasn't having to lift a huge bag of grains out or anything like that. It was very manageable, and it was one that she enjoyed quite a bit.
Yeah, and sometimes the process goes, the brewing process could be like 4 or 5 hours, kind of slip into that. Where if you sat down and make your seltzer just right, you're probably looking at about 2 hours with the cleanup in total.
Yeah.
Now, and the same goes for mashing grains and stuff like that as well. I think, Jeff, do you have the water profile for
The Topo Chico?
Yeah, so
Yes.
since we're in part 2, we are going to talk about a little advanced stuff, and one of those advanced things is our water profile on this. Aaron, if you're ready, grab your pen. We're going to tell you the water profile.
So what we did was, actually, Topo Chico on their website will actually give the breakdown of the mineral profile in their water. Now, they're doing it in a slightly different format. They're doing it, in parts per liter and some of those things. So there was a little converting that I had to do. But it didn't take too terribly long. And the only things that we aren't able to mimic from the Topo Chico water profile was their addition of fluoride and potassium. But otherwise, it's all right there. So
I don't think we were going to put potatoes in it.
I don't-
Try to get that potassium.
Or banana?
Oh, or banana. I forgot about that. Banana, way more pleasant. No potato.
yeah. So the water profile is as follows, and it's Aaron that's wanting to know that, or?
Yeah, we'll get Aaron to write this water profile down.
All right. So it is, and this is for a 5-gallon batch. You would want 3.4 grams of gypsum. You would want 1.2 grams of calcium chloride. You'd want 0.8 grams of canning salt. And then
I use regular salt. Regular sea salt works.
And then you would add some chalk to the tune of 2.6 grams of chalk. So to go over those again, that's 3.4 grams of gypsum, 1.2 of calcium chloride, 0.8 of canning salt, and then it was 2.6 of chalk. And that is the Topo Chico water profile.
Right on. And my batches that are brewing with that Topo Chico water profile is actually still going now.
Okay.
So hopefully have that ready next week, and then we'll throw our old-fashioned recipe on it and
Nice.
call her a day. Now, another thing that we wanted to talk about, a lot of questions that I actually got this question from England.
Oh, wow. Like
which-
London, England?
Yeah, he lives in the UK. He's about 15 miles away from our Muttons facility there.
Oh, nice.
So they actually don't have seltzer over there. It's kind of an American thing. I mean, well, by the popularity of Claus, that it is completely American.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that I had to tell him won't apply for people in the U.S. Just because they have different supplies of things, such as their supply of corn sugar is not as well as ours.
Okay.
But an interesting question that he had for me was, why do I use champagne yeast when I can use US-05, when I can use 1056, when I can use US West Coast,
Sure.
the Mangrove Jack? And my answer to that is that you can use many different yeasts. It's all about attenuation. It's all about what alcohol level you're going for. The reason why we use champagne yeast is because, is because it is the most consistent for our needs. It does dry out, which is totally okay for us because at the end of the day, we weren't looking for something overly sweet.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess instead of corn sugar, would he just use kind of like what you were talking about earlier, one of the beet sugar or?
Yes, he's going to use the Belgian candy syrup because it's more widely available over there. And another thing that he's going to use is he's going to sub out the maltodextrin, and he's actually going to use more lactose than I have ever used in a batch. So he's gonna try to experiment with a couple of things that I can experiment with all my free time that I have now. But yes, so we have a couple of things over here on our that I wanted to show y'all. I get a lot of questions from people that have soda streams or you know, things that make their own little water seltzer at home. I wanted to show y'all this real quick. This is the Carbocap. So if you were looking for this Topo Chico water profile, I know that Topo Chico at the store can go for about $9 a case.
Whoa.
Yes. We can make it here for about the cost of your water.
And then
that's
some of the minerals.
And some of the minerals, if you buy the minerals in bulk, these can last you up to 40 batches because we're only using small amounts in our water profile, which really helps out the cost overall. The Carbocap is very cool and interesting because it's a quick and easy way to do a 2-liter bottle of, you know, seltzer water real quick. Also, if you just wanted to add a little touch of flavoring to it, you can just put a drop of some Lorraine flavoring in there, and there you can have whatever flavor you would like of seltzer water. And the carbonation levels of seltzer at the end. I had a question about people wanting to bottle it.
Okay. Like is in bottle condition, or
they wanted to bottle it to give to friends.
Okay.
A lot of times what I would say is when you're bottling something that's going to be highly pressurized, have you ever used conditioning tablets?
I have, but it's been a long time.
What? I was like, have you ever had a good experience with conditioning tablets?
No.
Okay. That's something that I've never used. I had a customer tell me about, hey, I'm going to use conditioning tablets. I use the corn sugar method. You can find calculators on our website and a lot of other websites about how to calculate how many balls you want. 3.5 seems to be the magic number if you're just using corn sugar. If you're using CO2 system, it's a lot easier. I can hook it up to my CO2 system at about 40 psi.
Okay.
Give it a good little shake for 20 minutes, and it's carbonated perfectly at that level. Now it comes. It's a little different when you have alcohol in it.
Okay.
It takes the bubbles a little bit more time to get into solution whenever you're shaking it violently like that. So I do recommend that if you're using a hybrid seltzer or a seltzer that is made with grain, if you set it at 40 psi for 2 days, you'll be looking just about right. And if you're doing no grain at all in this, you're doing full corn sugar, I recommend 1 day at 50 psi, you'll be great.
Okay. Now, one of the things I also noticed when making my seltzer was that, and I think you mentioned this a little bit in the first episode you did, but as I pour it, there's a head.
Oh yeah.
To it, which is kind of interesting at first. And I gave it to people and they kind of looked and said, you know, why is there a head on top of it?
Well, I mean, seltzer, hard seltzer is kind of the beer way. So a lot of the times when it's pouring with head, that's because it is fully releasing that CO2 as soon as you get it out of the canister that you have it in. These heads will go down. I think you could see it maybe. The head on ours went down when he first cracked it open. I mean,
Yeah.
it foamed up a little bit and we had a little bit of problem. But now we're back. Nice. Go for it.
Now we did have a question from Aaron Rogers. He asked, how long does fermentation take? Same as with standard beers?
Fermentation for these is going to be a little bit awkward. And why I say that is because you really won't be able to see activity past the first 3 days on it.
Okay.
If you're fermenting in a clear vessel, kind of like a carboy or anything like that, you're going to get really worried. Set it and forget it. If you want to keep it in one vessel, I say 14 days. That whole 14 days, just set it in the back room, forget about it, don't even look at it. But But if you are one of those that do choose the secondary, you're gonna go your same 7-8 days and then transfer over to a new vessel, sanitized vessel, please. And then it's gonna take roughly 3 weeks. Now you can turn these over quicker than that, but at week 3 you're gonna see the peak freshness. You're gonna get the right taste, the right carb, everything is gonna be already ready to go for you. It makes these things unbelievable if you just take your time.
Okay.
If you rush it a little bit, you're gonna have okay seltzer, but then right when you're about to finish the keg, you're gonna be like, oh, this is the best seltzer I ever had. That's why I do recommend that if you do turn it over in 2 weeks, put some in a bottle. Bottle some up, put a cap on it, leave it in your refrigerator. Champagne yeast will ferment all the way down to 41. Yes, 41 degrees.
Wow.
So even if you cold crash it, you will still see bubbles coming out.
Wow.
Which really helps people. So I mean, it's gonna ferment the whole time. It's the point is we want to get the majority of fermentation done with, so we just have that little bit of residual fermentation on the back end.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, that was a 3-pound caution right there. That was a doozer right there. I almost gave up the house.
Okay, so what else, for someone who's wanting to kind of take things further besides the water profile, any other thoughts as to what you'd recommend that they do, or?
Yes, now I'm going to specify with this, for those who like sweeter tasting things and not on the drier side. For the sweeter tasting things, like I said, you want to add your lactose in, but also note, during fermentation, you will reach a point where your gravity readings won't tell you anything. It's because that the drop is so little that you actually won't see it coming down.
Okay.
You'll see the big drop, but not notice the small incremental drops. Lactose will not ferment with your champagne yeast, which is good. But at the end, you may have to step feed with a little bit of yeast nutrient.
Okay. Now, any particular yeast nutrient you recommend? Because there's wine yeast nutrient for wine, for beer, and then we've got Fermate K, Fermate O. There's a third one.
And Go Firm.
And Go Firm.
Yeah. So I have used Fermate O and Fermate K. They're actually the same thing, only one's organic and the other one is non-organic.
Oh.
So those things are good, and with Fermate K and O, you don't have to step feed your nutrients at the back end because it has so much nutrients in the front end that you're probably going to blow your top off.
Okay.
So, and again, if you happen to blow your airlock or your top off of your carboy, clean it up, sanitize it, put it right back on. It's okay, I promise. And then once you get past that, on the back end, when you're making certain flavors, you may have to add extra things to kind of boost your flavor a little bit.
Okay. Like for instance, on mine that I made, if I wanted more lime character, would you recommend that I use another one of those bottles of Loran key lime, or would you say use fresh lime juice, lime zest, or what?
That's actually a good question. Oh man, wish I had an assistant. Hey Tyler, can you grab me a sweetened sour and tart? The one straight back. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna use this time to reveal a new product that we just got in. Now, so this is what I would recommend for a lot of people who's saying, hey, I tasted it, there's a little bit of flavor there, but I still need more. I actually use this. It's called Tart and Sour flavor from Loran. But I promise you it will not give you tartness or sourness unless you add a lot of it.
Oh.
What it does, however, is it enhances the flavor that you already have. So if you're looking for just to add a little bit to that flavor, I would definitely try this Tart and Sour, just because it enhances your flavor that you already have. And if you want to kind of make it tart, this is what I'm actually working with right now.
Okay.
If you want to make it tart or sour, you're going to need a lot more than just this 1 ounce.
Okay.
It's about 10 ounces per 5 gallon if you
Holy
want to make it sour for
Okay.
the whole batch to be really tart and sour. So you don't have to worry about, over souring it with just this 1 ounce bottle. And it retails for about $4. So with $4 being added into our seltzer cost is still under $25.
Which that's another great thing to do with this too. As summer's approaching, and I know here in Texas and a lot of the other states, it gets pretty warm.
It is warm.
And to be able to have something like this that you can have in bottle or on tap, can really be real pleasant to have when you've been outside, or maybe you're brewing outside and sweating like nobody's business.
I like it as a lawnmower beer.
Yeah, I can see that too. I mean, it's because it's not too high of an ABV. So it's not like you take one and you're done.
No, yeah, it takes about 5. Trust me, I know.
All right. All right. So, any other thoughts you have about kind of taking things a little bit deeper on seltzer? Or
Just a couple.
All right,
Just
all right,
a couple things. All right. So,
can we taste yours yet?
oh
or-
yeah, let's do that.
Now we taste seltzer from the master. I'm but a mere student.
That's mine.
Does the tongue have to go out when you pour?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the whole action, man. All right, so, hey, you want some of this, Tyler? You're good? You want some? All right, cool. oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Was this the one did you do graham crackers in this?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this is key lime pie.
Yeah.
Nice.
So this is my key lime pie. I've actually been saving this just a little bit. I know. So I saved this one just to see if anybody else would make it and try to compare it. I know after tasting yours, it's like,
Yeah, mine is horrible.
I didn't want to say anything. It's good.
I
It's
appreciate
good, man.
It's like my very first beer I made. Where I'm
Yeah.
like, it's wonderful. And
Everybody should try this.
This is
Come on.
awesome. And I try this, and I'm like, my seltzer stinks. It still smells like toots.
Yeah. We'll get it cleared up.
All right.
It just takes a little bit of time and a lot of
More
practice. But I did save some of my key lime that I made for my original recipe. This does have a little bit of lactose, so you get kind of that mouthfeel
Yeah.
and that residual sweetness on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing to note with my key lime is that it's key lime pie. His is straight key lime, mine's key lime pie. It has a little bit of graham cracker in it, also lactose, and just a dash of caramel. You
Okay.
can kind of.
Is there any vanilla in there?
No, so the vanilla actually comes out of the combination between the graham cracker and the key lime.
Interesting. Okay.
So when you combine both those flavors, you get kind of a third flavor that makes it taste like vanilla, which kind of evens out the whole pie taste that you want to get out of it. Now this ABV on here is 6%, so it's just a little bit more stout for you, but also a great easy drinker. I made it 7 because it's a good flavor, but you don't want to drink that over 6, 7, pints. And that was a big thing for me, pulling off my kegerator. You have that one beer on tap and you're like, oh, I'm tired of it. You want to have something that's just not assaulting the palate as much as, other beers would be.
Okay. Yeah, and somebody asked, Jean actually asked, is the sanitation process just as important as with seltzer? So I'm guessing she means for beer.
Yeah.
It's the same as with beer. I mean, definitely, Jean, sanitation, whether it's seltzer or beer or wine,
Or kombucha, or it's just like everything.
it's always very important. Now, I guess along those lines, you mentioned the idea of addition of graham crackers.
Yeah.
Things like that, like if somebody starts making seltzer and they want to begin making other additions, like graham crackers or certain maybe spices, or maybe they decided they wanted to take their favorite cookie and it's Oreo cookies and they want to put that in there, or even peanut butter cookies or something like that. Is that sort of thing done during fermentation? Is it done during the boil, or?
So a lot of times what I tell people is I have crazy friends. We all grew up in the country and we love doing off the wall stuff. What I try to tell them is that if it's not something that you can sanitize via boiling or something like that,
Okay.
I don't like people adding things to their mash.
Okay.
My graham cracker was actually done with extract, so I wouldn't have to
Really?
worry about sanitation of it. I know the flavor depth is just too awesome on it.
That's really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it tastes like you're actually putting a graham cracker in your mouth right now.
I was really thinking, I'm like, all right, where did he put the graham crackers in? Because, also, I mean, it doesn't look like.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's clear.
It's nice and clear, which I would have expected if there were graham crackers in it. It'd be kind of murky and.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of the things I try to make too. I want to make clear beer, but also give you that flavor to make you feel like you're not missing anything at all.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, oh, it's got 5 calories. How much flavor can it really be? It can have as much flavor as you want it, or, a lack thereof flavor, but still great. But still great.
He's being nice right now.
I know.
Because he doesn't want me to stop making seltzer.
I was like, if it was at the beginning of the day, I would take yours to Pound Town, just because it's so nice, so easy drinking that you don't have all that craziness going on. And when you drink one of mine, you have a lot of stuff going on. I mean, the flavor levels are just getting thrown at you.
Well, and actually, we've been using this as actually kind of a cocktail base for margaritas. Gene will take a little bit of triple sec, a little bit of tequila, and then put a little bit of agave syrup in it as well to sweeten it up.
Oh, you're a fancy drinking.
And it's good. That and a little fresh squeezed lime juice, and you got a tasty margarita seltzer.
We'll see if we can do a margarita seltzer.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we can. A lot of these that I make were actually inspired by some of the drink mixers. I believe it was, I can't think of her name. I know you're going to hate me for this, but her name is Bethany? Bethany? Oh, somebody's going to be so mad at me. But she makes Skinny Girl cocktails. And all of her liquor, I know, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. That was a bad name reference. But all of her mixers are supposed to be low calorie,
Okay.
but they still have about 50 calories in there.
Yeah.
If you can make a good tasting seltzer, you can mix that with any kind of alcohol. Like I was said, the reason why we started off the show is by saying Topo Chico and going with that is because a lot of people that can't drink or simply choose not to drink, we can still get them on carbonated water or seltzer water versus, adding alcohol to it already and giving it to them. So, I mean, there's a lot of different options out there, a lot of variables. And again, the emails keep coming and we keep taking notice of them, which is why I'm back for part 2 right now. So I really appreciate everybody. I know we have 17 people watching live right now. If you could write a comment to help us out. If you have any questions, let us know now. That way we can go ahead and get them out of the way, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, let's see. Anything else you can think of to?
Oh, go get Michael. I think he had a couple of questions. Michael just made his seltzer. He did have one problem is that his
that's
seltzer actually froze.
Yes. Because he cold crashed it. Now, for those of y'all who don't know what cold crashing is, because
work that back in.
yeah, we said that on another episode that we were doing when we were talking about clarifying beer, and we did not define what to cold crash means or meant. To cold crash, basically what that means is taking your fermenter, either the primary or secondary, once fermentation is finished, and moving it into a refrigerator or some sort of device that's able to chill it down as cold as possible. The reason you do that is because then that causes a lot of the yeast that are in there to go dormant, to put up kind of their walls and kind of shield themselves and go dormant, and then they drop out of solution and collect on the bottom. So cold crashing is basically you're kind of shocking it, so to speak. You're going from your fermentation temperature, which was, let's say, was 64 or 65. And then you're moving it into a vessel or something that is able to bring the temperature down to 34, 35 degrees, something like that. And now some people will use modified freezers or things like that to cold crash. And actually, Michael, I believe that's when he was using something where
Yeah, he has a modified freezer. I think his Inkbird was going out on there.
Yeah, his temperature controller was going out, and basically his seltzer froze. And now, if your seltzer freezes, Cedrick, is it all lost, or is there still hope?
It is not all lost. It's kind of like blowing your airlock off your fermentation device. It's one of those things that really just happens, and sometimes we get worried and freaked out. I know
Yeah.
Michael was the first day he came in and was like, oh. I actually laughed at the idea that he made an ice seltzer and a slushy seltzer, which a lot of people out there are doing with beers right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I haven't had it. He keeps forgetting to bring it up yet, but I think it's going to be A-okay.
Okay.
You just need to make sure that you don't put it out into your garage where it's 112 degrees and shock it backwards.
Gotcha.
That would be like the opposite of cold crashing.
Gotcha.
What you're doing there.
Now, Jean asked in the chat, she said, what flavors do you recommend? So, I don't know, maybe what would be some flavors that, people are just getting into it, or maybe even people who have just started making seltzers but want to kind of further experiment. What kind of flavors would you recommend that they try?
Yeah, so I'll answer it in reverse. One flavor that I'm still working on, which means I haven't quite got it at a great result yet, is the lemonade flavor.
Oh, yeah.
I believe we had a customer order 3 today.
Yes.
I was like, well, if Sue doesn't do it, 3 certainly will. And that's because lemonade is such a light flavor. What I would recommend for a brewer that knows what they're doing, or a very advanced brewer, as long as you have about 6 brews under you, you should be able to do this. And I would actually use the lemonade powder from Color Time.
Really?
Yes.
From Country Time?
Yep.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
had great results with that.
Well, then there's some sugar in that too, right?
Yes. And once you, so what I did with a small batch of mine is I had a 2-gallon batch, and then I actually used the powder at the end of my bowl. I was in pursuit of a Tang seltzer, which it'll happen, but not at this time. Tang, it has vitamin C.
It's what the astronauts drink.
Yeah.
And it's what they would
important.
drink if they could make hard versions of Tang.
Right. What's better than a hard version of Tang? It's like your childhood, only adultified. Any more questions you got, Skipper Cross?
Let's see.
People are making
Gene was
plans
asking about
again.
flavors that we have available here at the Brew store.
Oh man, so many.
That we would recommend.
So
Like I use
key
the
lime.
key lime. Yeah.
We both use key lime.
Yeah.
It's hands down very great. It's not like your regular lime. It does add a little bit of sweetness, but not much at all. So if you do, like I said, it takes a little planning before the end to know what you're doing, because if you want that flavor to be sweeter, you want to go ahead and use lactose. But if you're doing a flavor such as lemonade, and you just want to have a little tart tinge to it, then you could go ahead and drop a drop of dram in there. Sam the Dram. That's what it is.
Sam the Dram in there.
Sam the Dram.
Oh boy.
Also, if you're just looking for a base flavor, did you get a chance to actually try your base before adding key lime to it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, how did that taste?
It didn't have a strong taste to it.
Yeah.
But it had a little bit of, and I think it was probably from the hops.
Yeah.
That were in
Yeah.
there. But had, I want to say it's kind of almost a melony kind of a thing going on in the background.
And when you when you make your base, it will have a little.
I'm gonna have a little bit of mine.
Yes, to even out the flavor. So one thing is that when you do make the base right, you will get this nice melling kind of strawberry floral taste to it that just draws you in. And when you're looking over my head, is Michael here yet?
No, it's Brock.
Brock, can you get Michael?
Hello.
Hello.
Michael!
Thank you. As you see, the wheels have broken down here on Thursday. This is how great we are.
Oh. We actually had a couple. Sarah said pina colada was one of her favorites.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Yeah,
And then
Sarah.
Jonathan Parks said, "Would you ever try a strawberry and blackberry mixture?"
Is that what you want, Johnny boy? Because I'll do it for you. I think I've actually did a.
What's up, guys?
Oh, nice. Now we could talk about how's your frozen seltzer.
I don't know. Sandra could probably tell you a little better. She's the one that's drank it. But
Hey, Sandra, could you tell us how it is?
it carved up. the sample or two I had of it was pretty tasty. It tasted like a pina colada.
Oh, you
So-
did pina colada?
Yeah, I did pina colada
See,
with that
pina
one.
colada's winning, man.
That one was definitely my favorite flavor that you've brought us.
Yeah. Did you recover? Did you taste it after it froze?
Yeah.
After it defrosted?
Yeah.
Oh, see?
Yeah, I've not had it carved up. It's on tap. I mean, it's pretty. It tasted fine.
Sounds like that's gonna be a lovely weekend in a couple.
Yep.
It's gonna be a lovely couple of weekends.
You know, I might keg that or tap that one up tonight. So
Nice.
the
I mean,
keg
it's
was leaking,
Thursday.
so I had to untap it, and I got to figure out where the keg's leaking. But yeah,
Oh man, we got to do an episode on that too.
on fixing leaky kegs.
Yeah, while you have product in there.
Yeah.
Let's see. And Aaron Rogers says, I was going to do a 50-50 with the blackberry and apple flavors. Sound good, or will the blackberry overpower the apple? I like a nice even blend.
I would think the blackberry
Yeah,
would overpower
the
any
blackberry
apple
is
flavor.
definitely gonna
Okay.
overpower it. I would probably go.
Blackberry and raspberry are both kind of flavor bombs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are, and they will take over. I think
Yeah,
we have.
you can't even have blackberry and apple
I
together.
know.
Like,
That's a
Aaron, I
sharp
love you,
flavor.
bro, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that one.
Yeah.
I don't think that one's gonna work there, man.
I mean, it could if you.
Thanks, Michael.
If you do 25% blackberry and then 75% apple, with the drams, it gets kind of iffy because you just have one little Sam the dram, and it gets get a dropper bottle.
What you could do is you could add, most if not all of the apple,
Yeah.
and then add in just the blackberry just bit by bit. Again, as he was talking about,
Hi, I'm Cedric.
Sorry, as Cedric was talking about, find a way just to like a dropper, or even you can use one of the pipettes that we've got
Yeah,
here at
we got
at the shop,
pipettes.
and just do it little by little and add it. Add it, mix it, see how it tastes, and then go from there. And then you'll be able to get to that point to where you're like, okay, I'm tasting the blackberry, but I'm still tasting the apple as well.
I'll also use, so back to Johnny Boy and his strawberry and blackberry mixture. Wouldn't that be sort of kind of like a sangria? Minus the orange? Blackberry and strawberry. So with strawberry, I kind of like it. So what I would do for that is I would actually do, it's like the strawberry.
Strawberry's pretty subtle.
Yeah, and then you're adding it to blackberry, which is like
A flavor
the
bomb.
flavor number one in that whole mixture.
Yeah.
It's gonna try to carry you through. So what I would do is, if you're making a 5-gallon batch, do 75% or all of the strawberry, and then just do a couple of drops of the blackberry on the back end. But yes, if you want me to do that, I will do that for you. I'll make you up a couple of bottles, bud. People are so needy when they know you can make good seltzer. Oh, the life.
It's across you, Bear.
I know. I do it for everyone. Do it for everyone. A couple of nice flavors that I also had is apricot. I actually did the apricot and added peach rings to it. Yeah. It fermented forever. It fermented forever. What I would recommend is that you chop up the peach rings if you're going to use them in there, mash them. I actually ended up putting them in the bottom of my secondary. That was an experiment I never want to do again. It's a lot of cleaning.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and they disintegrated, and then you just have gummy goop at the bottom of your fermenter. Couple of extra flavors. I did Oreo. Or cookies and cream. With that, I had to do a little bit of mixing with that. It was about 70 to 75% of the Oreo cookies and cream mix that we have.
Okay.
And then on the back side of that, I added Bavarian cream to get that creaminess out of
Oh,
it.
nice.
A couple other mixtures that I've created has been pumpkin spice. But cinnamon roll was actually a pretty nice flavor
Well, that
that I
sounds
made.
good. Yeah, Aaron said that he's, let's see, there's a great blackberry apple cider by Black Widow called Original Sin. I was going to try those flavors in a seltzer. I'll let you know how it works. So yeah, Aaron, let us know how that works. And if there's anybody else out there, y'all are making seltzers, you've had things that you had that you thought were very successful, things that you liked, maybe flavor combinations you tried that we've not mentioned. By all means, maybe mention them in the comments, or email us here at the shop and let us know what you're making, because we're getting more and more people asking about seltzers.
I'm getting excited, guys. Good
And-
job.
And that's one of these things to where we want to be able to help people make not just great beer and great wine and great mead, but also great seltzers.
Great everything. All fermentation is fermentation.
Yeah, and so if there's things that you've had that have gone well, let us know, and we'll maybe try it out ourselves, as well as help other people to make great seltzer too.
Because we definitely hear when it goes bad.
Oh yeah.
So send us some of your favorite flavor combinations. I know I have a lot. I know Jeff has just a few, but he will get a lot in just a few. I see Jean, going through it.
Uh-huh.
She's taking notes. Aaron, when
I
you
may be
get
buying seltzer
Oh,
ingredients
no.
before I go home today.
just go ahead and break down, buy you a 50-pound bag of sugar. Just if you do it at the beginning, it really lowers your costs at the end.
I'm sure.
And Aaron, with your original sin, go ahead and send us some, bud. You know the address once you get it ready.
Good deal. All right. Well, anything else you can think of before we close things out, or?
Besides, when you're kegging this stuff up, just make sure that you get it to a safe carbonation level. It's one of those things you can't really mess up. And the only thing is if it's undercarbonated or not. And that's something that you'll be able to tell based upon your taste and stuff like that. But other than that, this is probably one of the best ways to get into brewing.
Okay.
I would say it's an alternative way of getting into there, because just like with our kit, we have a little bit of steeping grain, we have our sugar, you even go through the clarification process on the kit.
Oh yeah.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility in just one kit. You get to learn a lot of steps that usually take people months and months of accumulation.
Well, the basic seltzer kit was that about 20 something, or?
Yeah, so it's $18, and then based on whatever dram you want, that's $2.95. So base price $20, including the flavor.
Which is a nice way to get into it, and it's not horribly expensive that way. And since you're not dealing with a whole lot of grains or a whole lot of hops,
the equipment is a little bit less.
Yeah, so that might be something for those of y'all who are maybe just thinking about getting into brewing. You might try your hands at a seltzer. If it's a whole thing of you're having a hard time convincing your lady that you should be able to do the brewing of a beer, perhaps make a seltzer
Together.
Yeah. And then maybe you can jump into the beer making.
Yeah, I like to take all the credit for seltzer, but I know for me it's really been Sarah who's taken on most of the duties when it comes to brewing these seltzers. Most of the time I'm at work. When I get home, I'm in charge of transferring it over, and I'm like, oh, there's more seltzer being made. So it really makes me happy when I come home and there's stuff bubbling away because she just made a new batch of seltzer. It's a great thing for somebody who wants to brew but sees it from the sideline and they're like, oh, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're spending 6 hours doing stuff. Like I said, it takes about 2 hours and it's fairly easy.
Okay, good deal. All right, anything else that you can think of we should say in closing?
No, I guess it's time to say goodbye.
Well, again, if there's questions y'all have, if there's things that you wanted to ask that you didn't have the chance to ask,
If there's anything that I didn't cover that you specifically told me to cover, I'm sorry, and I'll try to get to it next time.
yeah. So please let us know if you have any questions, any concerns, or if you want to even, if there's specific things about seltzer you want us to cover that was not covered here. We'd be happy to do so. And again, thank you for all of your orders and all that you've done in keeping us busy.
It's been great.
It has been indeed.
It's been fun.
And we appreciate all of your support, and we hope that all of y'all are staying safe at home. And let's see, our next episode.
Hi, Mom.
Brock's mom is watching. And so our next actual episode tomorrow is a controversial one.
Oh, we are going to be at war tomorrow, as it is Fight Friday.
We got a SmackDown coming at you tomorrow, guys.
Tomorrow we're going to be covering to secondary or not to secondary.
That is the question of the day. and we will decide it once and for all, or maybe not.
Maybe not, because I think right now I'm outnumbered, and you'll have to wait. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out which side of the fence I'm on, if secondary or not secondary. Also, what side of the fence that Stubby's on, of whether it's secondary or not secondary.
Yeah, so we got a lot of different opinions right here, and Jeff actually got a boost today when a brewer backed him up
Yes!
in his side. So it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a highly debatable topic. So we want everybody to tune in at around 3 o'clock and stay at home and brew it, guys.
Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers.